Hey guys, what's going on? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Lately, over the past month and a half, I have been rewatching all of the Marvel Studios movies, starting with Iron Man, moving all the way up to the present day. And this means that I had to watch some movies that I really did not like the first time that I saw them. There were two movies that I had not even seen since they came out in theaters. One of them was Iron Man 2, and the other one was Thor the Dark World. Now, Iron Man 2 is still a big, hot, steaming mess. That is, in my opinion, the absolute worst of all of the Marvel Studios movies that have come out so far. It has still got a huge amount of problems, and I'm very surprised that the Marvel Studios universe continued after that big train wreck of a movie. But the other one that I watched was Thor the Dark World. That is a movie that, when I first saw it, I really hated it. In fact, you can find my review of that movie on my channel. I haven't taken it down or anything, but watching that movie a second time, I actually liked it a lot more than I did the first time. Now, I want to go ahead and say that this movie still has a lot of problems, but it's not as awful of a film as I initially thought it was. The big problem that I have with this movie are still the bad guys. These guys, the Dark Elves, they have absolutely no motivations at all. They are very flat, they are very boring, and I'm not really getting anything from them, which is pretty much the problem that I had the last time I watched the movie. We're told that these guys want to basically turn out the lights all across the universe, that the elves lived in darkness, and they want to remove all light in the universe now. I don't understand why. I don't know if the elves are like weak against sunlight, if they're in constant agony whenever the lights are on. I don't know. But for some reason, they want to turn off the lights. A friend of mine was saying, well, maybe they want revenge against the Asgardians because thousands and thousands of years ago, Thor's grandfather defeated the Dark Elves, and now they want revenge. Okay, except that they're wanting to turn out the lights everywhere. They're wanting to conquer Earth. They're wanting to destroy all these planets all over the place, and not just Asgard. So that motivation doesn't really fly either. So the Dark Elves are still, in my opinion, the weakest part of this movie. I don't even think that really good acting can actually save these really weak cardboard characters. Christopher Eccleston is a fantastic actor, but you could have gotten anybody. You could have gotten the Key Grip to play Malekith, and you wouldn't have noticed, because Christopher Eccleston, I don't know if he's just phoning it in, or if it's just all of this makeup covering up his acting, but he's not really doing anything here that is grabbing me. Having said that, I think that there's a lot of stuff about this movie that I really like that kind of makes me want to go out there and say, hey guys, I might have been a little too harsh in my initial review of Thor the Dark World. One thing I really like is the relationship between Loki and Thor. Now, initially when I saw this movie, I wasn't crazy about everyone in the world kind of fangirling over Loki. I thought that by this point we had already seen him in 3 movies, and I thought that that was a little much. There were some other characters that I was wanting to see more of. I wanted to see the leader. I wanted to see more of the Abomination. I wanted to see the Red Skull again, and he's a character I still want to see more of. So I was thinking, okay, Loki is one of my least favorite villains from the Marvel Universe. I don't like him nearly as much as like some of these other bad guys. Why are we getting 3 movies with him and only 1 movie for all these other guys? And the answer is that Tom Hiddleston is a fantastic actor, and it certainly doesn't hurt that he's also really gorgeous, and a lot of these teenage girls are absolutely head over heels in love with him. But I really love the brother dynamic that they've got going on between Loki and Thor here. I really love that even though Thor recognizes that Loki is a villain, he's not fully willing to commit to that. He's not fully willing to say that Loki is a bad guy and I have to fight him. He still wants to believe that the brother that he grew up with is still there somewhere, and he still wants to have that brother in his life. Loki is much more willing to say, screw you, Thor, I don't really want anything to do with you, but then Loki loved his mother, Frigga, or Frisia. I don't actually know how to say her name. And I will go ahead and say, watching this movie the first time, whenever they started actually giving Frigga or Frisia lines of dialogue, I pretty much knew that she was going to die, because in the first Thor movie, she gets, I think, 1 line of dialogue in the entire movie. So when they started actually giving her screen time, I kind of figured they were going to kill her off. But I really love Loki's relationship with his mom. I really love that he's actually genuinely upset that she died. I love that Loki teams up with Thor, and it's not a betrayal. really. It kind of is, but it's not. This is what I wish the X-Men movies had done with Magneto, but every time Magneto has worked with the X-Men, he ends up betraying them, like in X-Men 2, or in X-Men First Class, where he's working with them and then he becomes a bad guy, or in Days of Future Past, where he's working with them and then he goes back to being a bad guy. I kind of wish that we could have had a movie where Magneto wasn't a villain in any way, and he was either not in the movie at all or was an ally throughout the entire movie. I kind of wish we could have had that, and watching Thor the Dark World, we got that. It was just with Loki instead of Magneto and the X-Men. Now, we do eventually get him taking over Asgard, which happens at some point off screen, and if you've seen the Doctor Strange movie, then somehow that is coming back into play in later Marvel movies. I don't know what's going on there. I don't really understand, but I really do like that Loki doesn't betray Thor, that he doesn't go and join forces with Malekith and become the secondary or the primary villain in the last act of the movie. I really like that Loki genuinely wants to get back at the bad guys. I thought that was really cool. And another thing that I really liked about this movie is that it's set so much on Asgard. It's not completely set off Earth. I'm really hoping that Thor Ragnarok is going to be completely off planet Earth. I'm thinking maybe it's not, because again, if you've watched the Doctor Strange movie, in the post-credit scene, spoilers, there is a thing with Thor and Doctor Strange. It seems like those characters are going to be teaming up, so maybe Thor is going to be on Earth a little bit in Thor Ragnarok, but I'm really wanting an entire movie that's just set completely away from planet Earth, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, because one of the things I love so much about Guardians, and I know I'm going on like 1,000 tangents here, but one of the things I love so much about Guardians was that that movie was not connected to all of the others, and I would really love to see Thor off on some foreign planet somewhere fighting alien bad guys. I don't have to see him come to Earth and have scenes with Jane Foster and Darcy and her intern and Dr. Selvig. You can have Selvig showing up in the Avengers movies, but you don't have to have Thor on Earth. And I love that we got to see so much more of Asgard. Watching the first Thor movie, we got quite a bit of Asgard, but it really only felt like it was just these 9 guys. It was Heimdall, it was the Warriors 3, it was Sif, it was Odin, it was Loki, it was Thor, it was Frigga, but it didn't really feel like it was a kingdom. And yes, we did get to see a big feast thrown at the end of the movie, but it didn't feel like it was a huge land that Odin ruled over. It felt like it was just these characters who were participating in the plot. In Thor the Dark World, it actually feels like a big deal. We get to see a lot of the landscape. I feel like we get to see more of the characters than we did in the first movie. It feels like a huge deal, and we're getting to see so much more of Asgard here, and I actually really like that. And also, I like the scenery. It just looks really nice. It looks really pretty. I usually don't comment on that sort of thing, but it looks really cool. So while I initially really hated Thor the Dark World, I think I've come around on it a little bit. Now, it is still not the best movie. I don't think that it's as good as the first Thor movie. I don't even think that it's in the top half of the Marvel Studios movies. If I had to rank them from best to worst, this would still fall in the 50% of the worst category. But it's not nearly as bad as what I gave it credit for when I first saw it. So I just wanted to get some of these kind of rambly thoughts about Thor the Dark World out there, let you guys know that I am capable of change. I've heard people out there ask the question, have you ever seen a movie that you hated and then you went back to it later and you loved it? Turns out I've kind of had that with Thor the Dark World. I wouldn't say that I loved it, but I did like it a lot more than I did the first time. So those are my thoughts, my renewed thoughts, I guess you could say, on this movie. I hope that you guys liked this re-review of Thor the Dark World. In the meantime, I will see you guys later this week with some other thoughts and some other videos. And in the meantime, you guys have a great rest of your day. Catch you later.